Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 357. It is the third day of the week, aka the Spirit Bomb workout. I am feeling pretty good right now. I am very distracted by a few things that are happening around the world because, of course, there's always something that happens in the universe, but today feels a little special, let's just say that. And with that being said, we'll talk about today's subject matter. History doesn't repeat, but often it rhymes. So, the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because I think that the lesson that a lot of people don't realize is that many things in the world repeat over and over again, but they don't necessarily repeat exactly word for word. What happens is usually this phenomena where things just happen to rhyme, and we'll get into examples of it and all this other stuff, but it's probably one of the main reasons why we are in a weird stuck cycle that we kind of go through throughout history, whether it be the past or what we want to see in the future. We all just think of it, our certain lens because we see it a little differently because the world changes, of course. But realistically, it doesn't. And we'll talk more about these things and a few others because we're living in some very interesting times. So, with that being said, I will see you at Mother Base.
All right, so started this day off with AD press, which was pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. History doesn't repeat, but often it rhymes. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because a lot of the times things happen a lot of the time in the past, and we repeat it in a lot of cycles. This isn't necessarily just the world itself, but in our own life as well. I think a lot of people realize this at a certain point in their lives where they will end up repeating the same cycles over and over and over again. Some people are able to break the cycle and get out of it, but others are doomed to repeat it until the day they die. And it's a very unfortunate thing, but this goes beyond just the person, but we as societies have done this for decades upon decades upon decades, where we will just repeat the same things over and over again in weird rhyming of the past, but not quite the same as it once was. Now, is this always accurate in one-to-one representations of how things are? Of course not. There are things that are different, of course, but there are things that we can look at in the past that have happened already that are very similar to where things that are happening now. So, for example, one of the big ones that a lot of people like to point to and was something that was basically catastrophic for a lot of reasons for a lot of different times, which was in both 1920 and 2020, there was a giant flu-like epidemic that was, or you could say pandemic, that was ravaging all of the world basically. So it was something that has repeated. Now it's not exactly the same as it once was, as we have modern technology now and we can also record all of this stuff, but also as well, this is just a little bit of a small inkling of what really happens. You can see this all the time if we look at other examples of this in the past. Now, if you say something along the lines of information technology has made it so everything in the world is at your fingertips now, something could be similarly said for when the printing press was invented. So then that way people could actually read the books that were once basically held for those who could read and or hire esteemed officials. So now that is an information overload that hit a lot of people all at once who could now learn how to read on their own and all this other stuff. So it's a lot of things like that. And even though it's not exactly a one-to-one the same thing, it definitely rhymes. And I think that a lot of people do not take this quite as serious as it could be, because I think a lot of it is heeding the warnings from the past that we are trying to remember or at least understand, and making sure that in the future we don't do that. We don't fuck it up. We can just actually learn from these things. But it seems as though whether it be in the macro where the entire world doesn't get it, or even in the micro where even in your own world where for some reason you just never really understood the lessons that were to be from these past things, you are destined to really redo everything that once happened. So eventually things will slightly seem like it's the same thing happening over and over and over again. And it's interesting to me that we haven't learned this lesson yet, not as not even as people, but as a society or just the person itself, because even the person is destined to do this at a certain point. Looking back and reanalyzing everything to make sure you aren't repeating the same mistakes over and over again is a tough challenge, because we tend to go into the grooves that we once were. And I will go into one day about the Ouroboros that is the world and all that other stuff, but that's kind of a different subject for a different day. But this is more so along the lines of, if you see anything that's happening in the world out there that is crazy news, just understand that this type of stuff has already probably happened in the past in some way, shape, or form. It's just knowing when that thing is a starting point for something more catastrophic or major is the difference nowadays. But because of how information is spread nowadays, things can get buried relatively easily and quickly, where things like that might not even be known to the general public. So it's very hard to keep track of those types of things, but they are there still. There are things that will stand the test of time and be forever known as a significant moment in human history.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercise is not filmed, none. Exercise is skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because regardless of whether you're looking at the big picture of the world in its entirety, or even in your own world in its infinite minuteness, I have made videos about old habits dying hard right here a long time ago, but I think expanding it a little bit from there is a good idea, because realistically, this happens everywhere, all the time, all at once. I think a lot of people like to ignore these things. They think that, oh, we are completely different from what we once were, which kind of true, but also it took us millions of years to evolve to this spot that we're in currently. So there are times where we stay stagnant, in the sense that more likely than not, mentally we are probably all the same. And there's a lot of other theories that go into this, such as the collective unconsciousness and things like that, which I will talk about in a different episode, because that's something completely different, but kind of in a similar way. And the issue, or at least the idea of this, is the fact that we possibly already know what's going to happen next. It's just a matter of looking to the past and trying to predict what's going to happen. I think a lot of people are ignorant of that because of how different things are looking visually from their perspective. But realistically, it's all kind of the same. If they look at it like this, in that perspective, everything has kind of been already foretold. It's just the matter of figuring out how, where, and when they were foretold. I think a lot of people want to ignore that, because realistically, how frightening is it to know that your future is already written somewhere? You know, the idea that there is a predestination already ready for you. It's kind of like the movie Final Destination, you know, that entire idea. But even then, still, it's something that isn't just you as a person. Now, I think there is some fight and will that you can change in your own life, of course, but at the same time, there are just certain things that you're destined for. It just happens to happen. There's nothing that you can really do to change that. Sure, you can change the things to get to that one place, but there is a destiny for all of us, and I think at a certain point you have to get there, and it's pre-written somewhere in whatever belief system you have, whether it be a god, a preordained destiny, or something else that might be out there. It's just already written. And the thing is, I'm not a huge idea or believer in something like that per se, especially when it comes to the person. But when it comes to giant historical events that happen around the world, I think that a lot of it has already been kind of written, and we are doomed to repeat the cycle over and over again until we either end it all, or we can break the cycle and get past it. But I don't think we're going to get past it this cycle. So I think something either catastrophic is going to happen or more turmoil is going to really unfold for us. And I really do hope that that doesn't happen. And we are the one that could break the cycle that has really encaptured us and let us know that society will always face a downfall, regardless of whether or not we try hard to prevent it. But it's just now the catastrophical levels have reached maximum because, just in case if anything really does happen, it's the giant nuke button, and well, good luck. Everybody worries about World War III because it's like, oh my God, we're gonna have to go to war. Realistically, if World War III happens, like legitimately, like, US Russia, boom, it's gonna last like 5 minutes because everybody's gonna launch them, and then it's just all of humanity's gone. So it's really not that crazy of a thing. If it happens, we're just gonna see all white, done. We're just wiped. There's not gonna be many survivors. So that'll be something kind of for a different day, but that's how I feel about that. But that's just more of a doom and gloom, and I'm a never doomer, so I don't believe that that's gonna happen. But I do believe that people are destined to do the same things over and over and over again because they cannot break the cycle in which they are in, because it has been preordained, but they refuse to look at the past and understand the past and learn the lessons from the past in order to bring them to the future. You can see this in people, you can see this in countries, you can see this in families, you can see this in every place that you see a person that is stuck in the past who refuses to move forward because they refuse to learn a lesson. So it happens, but it's going to be a long and interesting winter. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like this one. This video was slightly random, but this has been an idea this video is something that I've had an idea for a while. I've wanted to talk about this since probably the beginning of the channel, but this is just something that is very seen right now because of world events that are currently happening. But with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy, stay safe out there, stay cool out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.